Welcome back to the Tracy Take. I am Tyler here with my brother Ryan, and today we are breaking down the Arizona Cardinals 3-round mock draft. But before we do that, we have a fun announcement. We have partnered with BetUS for all of our viewers if they like to put a couple bucks down on the game that they're watching. Click that link down below. They have a fun promotion going on right now for all first-time players of 125% match for your first 3 deposits. So NBA playoffs right around the corner, NHL playoffs right around the corner. If you like betting on a couple of the playoff games, click that link down below and take full advantage of their promotion. While you're at it, be sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Trying to get to 3,000 subscribers by the NFL draft, and we're only a couple hundred away. So any help is greatly appreciated. Brian, let's pull this up here. The Cardinals, I think they've had a really good offseason so far. I think they've addressed some of the key areas that they need to improve on. A lot of stuff on the defensive side of the ball with how good Jonathan Gannon is as the head coach defensively coming over. I think just getting better players in there, I think is going to be a huge improvement. I also think, too, bringing in Jonah Williams and Evan Brown, addressing that offensive line is going to be great for Kyler Murray just for his future, just so he can just keep staying as healthy as possible. Then if another quarterback comes in, they traded Rondale Moore away for Desmond Ridder. If Ridder has to come in and play, at least you can trust that like the offensive line in front of him is going to be more reliable, and they keep building around Paris Johnson. So they did end up losing a couple of receivers, Hollywood Brown and Rondale Moore, and then they also did Leaky Fotu, linebacker from New York Jets. Apologize if I mispronounced the name. But in general, these were just the notable ones. There's still some other free agents or the people who haven't signed anywhere yet that could go back to the Cardinals. It could go back to a different team. But Ryan, overall, what are your thoughts on the Cardinals offseason move so far?
One other departure, they did release DJ Humphries, their left tackle from last year, but it is kind of expected that Paris Johnson's going to flip back over to left tackle and Jonah Williams will play right tackle. Yeah. So really not a big loss, in my opinion. He also was struggling with injuries throughout the past few seasons. So
actually, if I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong, Cardinals fans, but I'm pretty sure he tore his ACL in like week 17. And so Kelvin Beachum came in and replaced him. I don't know if I'm getting those names mixed up or not. So I apologize. Yeah. But yes, it was an expected move. That's why you go and get Paris Johnson Jr. And so, because that's what I think.
Also in his young 30s as well. So
yeah, that's true. So,
but
I'll be there.
Sorry. Just to answer your question, I just like what they've done. Just adding solid pieces, especially solidifying this offensive line, because I think that to me shows that, not to give away our first pick, but they're really going to go probably an offensive weapon on their next pick, because they went out, they addressed the defensive interior, they got an outside linebacker, speedy edge rusher in Mack Wilson. He can play that middle linebacker spot. However, New England was really using him as that like quick twitch Hassan Reddick style edge rusher. And then going and getting Sean Murphy-Bunting from Tennessee. While he hasn't played as great in the last couple seasons, he was a big part of that Tampa Bay defense when they were in Super Bowl contention and winning that division. So he is capable of playing at a high level. And as far as the losses, Hollywood Brown and Rondale Moore, while I don't want to say integral pieces of that offense, but they're, to me, easily replaceable. You have a lot of guys in this draft class like Taj Washington, Malik Washington, who are very similar style skill sets that they're going to be able to get in the 4th, 5th round.
Yeah.
They have a ton of picks to kind of go and get guys at the wide receiver position as well. And so that, to me, I think is like kind of negligible in that sense.
Yeah, and I think that's a good kind of segue to our first pick as well, is where it's just the way that it's working out right now. Chicago and Washington are definitely taking a quarterback. I'd be shocked if New England didn't take a quarterback, or if they traded back to a spot where they would be outside those top 3. Like if the Chargers would want to trade up because maybe they wanted to jump Arizona to get Marvin Harris Jr., I could maybe see that happening. But in general, the Cardinals are sitting in a premier spot to get a receiver here, and I think that they'll be more than satisfied to get Harrison Jr., Neighbors, or Odunze. So here we have them get Marvin Harrison Jr. I don't really think that's even too much to really talk about here. I know he didn't do his pro day. I know he didn't partake in the combine. Those are business decisions. which I totally get. He's been the number one receiver in this draft class since he was freshman year of college. So I think the interesting thing, though, is if we move to the second pick that they have. So we did include trades in this 3-round mock draft. And we thought since they lost 2 receivers now, that they look at their room as a whole, that they would be aggressive and they have 6 picks in the top 100. So we ended up making a trade with the Pittsburgh Steelers where they traded their 27th pick and the 90th pick to move up 7 spots to go and get Brian Thomas Jr.
Yeah,
fully address that receiving room. I really like both of these players here. I think if they even wanted to, maybe if they want to go the full LSU route, maybe if they like Malik Neighbors a little bit more than Marvin Harrison Jr., they want to do something like this, go Neighbors and then Brian Thomas Jr. Those guys have played pretty well together, I would say. And so I do like the aggressiveness of going up. They have the draft capital to go and do it. So maybe they don't like if you don't like the Brian Thomas trade here or pick, I don't be surprised if they're extra aggressive on night 1 of the draft because they have 3 third-round picks, one the 66 overall pick. If they really wanted to move up and go get a guy, that's a lot of points on the draft chart here. So, Ryan, what do you like about Brian Thomas Jr., especially too when you pair him up with Marvin Harrison Jr.?
Yeah, I mean, when you pair him up with Marvin Harrison Jr., you have 2 big explosive athletes that can line up just about anywhere in the formation. That was one thing that I think Brian Thomas Jr. did more. While the majority of his snaps were on the outside, LSU did run their fair share of slot fades with Brian Thomas Jr., just allowing him to basically be in a foot race to the back left pylon or back right pylon. So a really versatile guy. He definitely wins more down the field. But as far as alignment goes, I'm not super concerned with having these 2 big wide receivers. I do think maybe if they are interested in Brian Thomas Jr., maybe Malik Neighbors is that first pick, and then they go and get Brian Thomas Jr. here just because maybe those guys line up a little bit better skill set wise. But if you're just going with like names on the board, I think these two are 2 fantastic receivers to come out of this draft with. So,
Yeah, and so I agree. I think moving on now, because one of the reasons too, I think why they trade up or have the option to trade up is they're picking just a couple picks after their spot 27. So had them going on the edge rusher here, a guy like Chop Robinson, super athletic, and you go look at the additions that they made on the defensive side of the ball already in free agency with adding Bilal Nichols and then Justin Jones as well. I think you go at a guy like Chop Robinson who is just super athletic. He's that modern day type edge rusher now where he can explode off the line, does need a little bit of work. And I think you go get a guy like him, put him in Jonathan Gannon's, kind of defensive room and he can kind of coach him up and keep kind of honing those skills. Who knows what Chop Robinson could be by the end of the year or even next season. Yeah.
And super explosive guy. He did really, really well and graded out really, really well against the lower grade competition, whether that was like the IUs of the Big Ten or whether I forget if they played like Western Michigan or something, but just absolutely dominated that. The problem was when you saw him go up against the Michigans and the Ohio States, he kind of disappeared. He didn't really have an impact on those games, and that is a little bit concerning. But all the physical skills are there that you would want, and I think he just needs a little bit of refinement in his game. And so getting a guy like that here at the end of the second or at the top of the second round, I think would be really, really good value. So let's move on now to their next pick, which is pick 66. And this is Jonathan Brooks, the running back from Texas. He is coming off a torn ACL, but I think when you look at his tape, he is probably the most explosive running back in this class. And probably the top guy and would be middle second round contention if he didn't tear his ACL, I think around November. So he's probably going to miss a decent bit of time and come back in the middle of the year. However, one, they have James Conner to carry that load in the time being. And 2, James Conner is getting older. So looking beyond 2024, they do need that every down back to go and get to give carries to.
Yeah. Well, and that was kind of our thought process too when we did this draft is that Jonathan Brooks, he can be the guy you can slowly kind of get healthy, make sure that he's not rushed in there. They do still have guys like Emery DeMarcado, and then they did even sign DJ Dallas. He's a guy that we didn't include on there, but still just good running back depth. But Brooks has the capability, though, to be honestly kind of similar to James Conner, I would say. He's at every down back, and it can do it all for you. I think one of the reasons too why we felt going for running back here and being aggressive. If you kind of look at the next couple of teams, they could be going after running back, and they also too have another pick as well here at pick 71. And so we felt that the secondary would be important here. We have them going with Jaden Hicks, and so looking at it though, I will say I'm looking at their safeties now. Buda Baker is still on the team. They have Jalen Thompson as well. Maybe it's just good more depth, but maybe this is a pick that we could see them going a different route. If we want to focus on linebacker, maybe getting another edge rusher, just trying to make this defense as lethal as possible. If you go look at the division that they're playing, they're going to need a lot of speed. They're going to need a lot of players as well. At the time, felt like Jaden Hicks would be a good one. Maybe it's still a good pick. And so I'm curious on your thoughts kind of now after the Cardinals kind of go through their
he has a little bit of a different safety than Buda Baker. I feel like Buda Baker is more of like a free safety, where Shaden Hicks is definitely that strong safety type where he's going to play down by the box, be close to the line of scrimmage, playing downhill. So I do think they have that going for them. Maybe not. Maybe they don't need that in their system, but I do think having good safety depth will be important. I could also see them potentially going after a cornerback here. Maybe go get a Kyrie Jackson, like an outside corner specifically, Max Melton or somebody like that instead of a safety. So
potentially, this would be a good spot for a guy like Max Melton. So
yeah, and all in all, just looking at this draft, these 5 picks here, it did cost them just a third to go up from 27 to 20 to get Brian Thomas Jr. And I think getting those 2 wide receivers, definitely 2 players that are going to come in and contribute right away. Chop Robinson is, I think at the very least, going to participate in true pass rushing downs, just until he gets a little bit more solid on the field in like running situations, which he struggled with a little bit at Penn State. So I just think all in all, they're going to be in best player available mode. They did a good job of solidifying their weaknesses through free agency. So
it's Cardinals are going to be a team. They were one of my favorite teams to watch last season because we went in with no expectations. We even predicted that they wouldn't get any wins, and they ended up getting a couple. But I think with how hard that team was playing, I think now that too with this rebuild, Kyler Murray's going to be the guy. There's going to be a rookie receiving room, but I will say if Marvin Harrison Jr. is the one in that receiving room, it's already one of the better receiving rooms in the league, I feel. So it's going to be fun to watch, see how the Cardinals keep developing over the offseason and then how they do during the year. Yeah.
So let's go ahead and wrap this one up here. If you guys have not already, please go ahead and like and subscribe. Leave a comment down below on what you thought of this Arizona Cardinals 3-round mock draft. Did you love it? Did you hate it? What would you do differently? And on that, we'll see you guys next time.